Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by former guest, Scott Walker, VP of Supply Chain Product Management at Powerfleet. And Powerfleet is AIoT, actually, I believe they say, what people powered and bringing safety tech and solutions to the warehouse material handling industry, which is ever so important. And we're going to dive a little bit into their new pedestrian proximity detection solution and find out how that works, how that's coming into play, and how that's really going to make a difference within our warehousing lives and make it safer for us. So, Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, Kevin, and happy to be here, and always happy to talk about these types of technologies.
Absolutely. Happy to get you back on here. And of course, whenever we're talking safety tech, it's very good stuff to be talking about, very important, especially as we see such a surge in popularity of warehouses, meaning there's more people in there. And certainly, I think, there's a lot of talk about automation and robotics, but people are still very much present within those environments. And that safety is such an important piece. So, before we dive a little deeper, why don't you kind of just give us a brief overview of Powerfleet for people maybe that are not familiar?
Sure. So Powerfleet's a intermodal and in warehouse and connected vehicle solution set, and we build technologies to satisfy those three main verticals that are all related to either material movement or people movement. And our business is, we call ourselves People Powered IoT. We have a really good tenured consultative staff of people who work closely with some of the best material handling moving companies in the world. And together we work on technologies and solutions that help the end use end up to be the best as possible, whether that's, getting goods that are ordered today online into your hands within an hour, or whether that's making sure that, the best automobiles are made with the most quality and delivered when people need them because their leases are up, things like that.
Yeah, very interesting. And I love the fact that you utilize that people powered aspect to it. And I think that's pretty interesting too, because I mean, you mentioned IoT and, typically people think IoT, well, that's like my microwave communicating with my dishwasher or something like that, right? It's devices talking to each other and extracting that data. So where are, people involved in that? So tell us a little bit about kind of that people powered aspect and why it's such an important element there for Powerfleet.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. The IoT world has been around for a long time. And like you said, it started with just, endless supply of individual items sending data to a cloud. And then it was
Mm,
left up to someone to figure out what to do with it. And so, as we move into this AIoT world, which is now building engines that can look at that information and use it quicker, better, and in a more directed stance, it really does revolve around people who understand the end use of it with people so that you could build the right engine to make the right decisions, to not require everything to be looked at and analyzed by a person. So it's kind of ironic
mm.
that you're using people and the understanding of how their business is run and working with them to help a machine decide how best they could make adjustments to be better for the people that are working.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's very interesting, and I think too it's interesting how you mentioned that the AI is coming into to play there. So I mean I'm curious on that. You mentioned these devices, these machines have been just constant streams of data sending to the cloud, and I think oftentimes too we've seen that maybe companies are not fully taking advantage of that data that's being out there. They're like, I'm generating data, right? But are you doing anything with that data? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, right? So, that's kind of where I think that AI comes into play a little bit. So, I mean, tell us from your perspective, like how has AI kind of come into play now, become more accessible, so it can really kind of change that data analysis and insight side of things.
Yeah, there's a few ways, and it is hard. It's hard to figure out what to do with data. I mean, this industry has been focused. You mentioned before about automation for a while, but still, I don't have the latest statistics, but as of this time last year, there was only 15-20% of facilities that had any kind of automation. And,
Yeah.
less than half of those had the kind of automation that they really wanted to get to. And it's because, again, they have lots of data. We've had, prescriptive tools for a long time that help people look at, all right, I had this many incidents in this area yesterday, so I need to try to figure something out. But it might have been because, you had two trailers come in at the same time when they weren't supposed to, and you had too much activity going on, and so you had more incidents because it was jammed in there. But it didn't really mean that you had to change your business practice. So having said all that, the AI we're moving for is to be more predictive and to use things to help prevent incidents ahead of time on a safety perspective, but also to be more predictive for which vehicles are going to be out of service and when and why. And then there's a whole nother flip side of the AI, that OpenAI has really helped us introduce is the chatbot world, and just being able to
Right.
use an AI chatbot type engine to get access to the information that you could get on your own if you ran reports or if you pulled charts and did different things and inferred it. But now you could get there quicker by, asking a question. Hey, where did I have my most impacts yesterday? What time of day was it? Who was involved? And these things can, churn through that data and give you responses much faster than you could go and run reports and read it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's some of the exciting things there because I think if we look at like a warehouse fulfillment center specifically, I mean things are moving so fast, right? And the higher the volume you're doing, it's moving faster, and the data is just getting generated. So many data points per second, and if I look from a supervisor, warehouse manager standpoint, like when do I really have time to sit down and go through all this data myself and analyze it, right? It's not necessarily a fun and exciting task. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But,
And it gets
I
even
think that's kind of
better
where,
when you
yeah,
look at like video, because video takes a long
mm,
time to consume. It's not just looking
right.
at data. You have to consume it at the pace that it was recorded at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've spent some days in my careers trying to track down just little tiny clips. Spending an hour, 2 hours to find 5 seconds of video clip is not fun to say the least. But I think AI is coming into play to be able to help with a lot of those things and help give kind of those almost eyes in the back of your head type of situations, you could say, right, for those operators and being able to do that. So now you guys have released recently this new solution, which is helping. I guess we could say have eyes in the back of your head in a sense, and on the side of your head, and all different ways as well, which is the pedestrian proximity detection solution. So tell us a little bit about that, and tell us too, like why did Powerfleet feel that there was a need in the market for this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean the need was really driven by, I think, the use space. And we've had technologies for analyzing and tracking incidents for a long time now. But
Mm,
the goal is not just to track incidents and be retroactive. It was to try to prevent them. And so the technology
right.
was kind of led by the need of, hey, let's stop keeping track of things that happened and let's start preventing them from happening in the first place. And so, when you think of AI vision technologies, there's a lot of use cases for them today, anywhere from, a camera you put outside your house that can, alert you when it senses a person walking through your yard, to in your cars and when you're driving around and you get beeps because there's a person or an object of interest near the side of you or in front of you or in back of you. So, we looked at all those technologies and it seemed like it was a good fit for this market space as well, where we have these very heavy, very dangerous, if not operated correctly, piece of equipment moving at fast paces with, like you said, automation and people around them. And so we kind of combined the need with the existing use of these technologies, and built a solution around it. So, and that solution is really, there's, as you can imagine, there's an on vehicle piece of hardware that is vision based, and it's got an onboard neural network that can analyze images, much faster than a human can in a much broader range. And so as you're operating, we can analyze all those images 30, 50 times a second. It can very quickly determine if the object in your field of travel is an object of interest, like a person or another vehicle. But it can also ignore things like the pallet that you want to drive right up to and pick up.
Yeah.
And so, and as it's going through that, it's saying, is this object of interest, and is this object in my path of travel, and how far away is this object from a risk situation? And we can escalate that level of risk as they get closer or further away,
Mm.
and create not only ways to avoid it by alerting the driver, alerting the person who may be walking in front of them, but also, doing things like proactive tactile responses, like just slowing the vehicle down 10% tells the driver, hey, what just happened. It's very similar to something that your car would do when it shakes your steering wheel when you're, approaching the
Mm.
side lane, things like that. So that's what happens on a vehicle to help prevent all these higher risk situations. And
Yeah.
then in the cloud, we can again collect all this data, and our engine can look at that. And it's logging things like what types of events, what caused them, how long did they last, and we could piece together um, these insights around incursions that say, like, these are the drivers who react very well because when it's far
Mm.
away, it never gets closer. Or these are the areas of your facility where incursions are coming in from the left side or the right side. So that's people jumping out of aisles, and maybe you need to put a new gate in or something to help prevent that and increase your safety. So there's a lot of information that can be pulled into the cloud that helps us give recommendations and predictions on how you can continue to make the situation safer.
Mm. Very interesting, and I think obviously, something that's very important to not only be able to, like you said, collect that data around potential incidents or incidents that happen, but even more important to be able to prevent them, right? So you can look at more of a preventative approach versus a reactive approach, I guess you could say. But when we look at the material handling equipment, talk us through a little bit. What does this solution look like? Say I have a fleet of forklifts, and I'm thinking about putting something like this in place. Can it go on any forklift? Does it need to have a specific setup? What does that kind of installation look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, uh, to answer that, it can go on most equipment, right? Some equipment it doesn't make
Mm.
sense, and we have a scalable solution. So some vehicles drive in both directions all the time. So we have dual camera systems, one that can face forward and one to face backwards, and they're activated by the direction of travel. So you're not worried about warning someone about something behind them as they're driving away from it, because it's not really a material event for them. But there's some vehicles that only travel in single directions. So we have single camera solutions. But we really focus this release around smaller scale, easier installation, more repeatable. So we have people put them on all different types of equipment. Probably not so much pallet jacks and things like that,
Mm.
but any sort of driver-ridden larger piece of equipment. Counterbalance forklifts, stand-up forklifts, order pickers, things like that, turret trucks. Those are the types of equipment that are moving at a faster pace, have a have
Yeah.
a have a limited ability to slow down at a fast pace, and those are the types of equipment they get installed on.
Interesting, interesting, and I'm guessing it's a pretty easy installation. It sounds like it's some cameras and then I guess some kind of control box or.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's a centralized control box that has sort of the neural networks on it, and it's doing all the onboard edge processing. And then the cameras are um, 125 or 130-degree field of view cameras that have low light, high light, transition light sort of technologies. It has time of flight sensors so that you can know if somebody hung their hat on it, and you're no longer going to see anything you want to see.
Yeah.
All the ways that we've seen over time that people try to circumvent solutions that are really there to help them. We've tried to come up
Mm.
with ways where this onboard solution provide diagnostics and help us understand if there's something that needs to be looked at, just to keep it healthy all the time, give the driver notice that it's healthy, things like that.
Interesting, and interesting. You mentioned the hanging your hat on it. I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, so if I'm a forklift operator, right, and I get on the forklift, and now it has this solution installed on it. I mean, how does my operator experience change? Like, what's different now about when I operate the forklift?
Yeah, I mean, really, there shouldn't be much, right? So the way they operate it will remain the same. But now they know that they have sort of, like you said, more eyes in their head to see what's going on around them, and they will get feedback when something is in their path. So if they are distracted, or if they are not just seeing something around an object that's in front of them, now they'll start to get, sounds and or lights and or tactile feedback to say, hey, there's a potential higher risk situation for you, and it just lets them
Mm,
know, and they slow down and they understand and they see what's happening, and it helps them avoid it. But their
interesting.
use case
Yeah.
is still, get on my forklift and move my material and keep my day going.
Gotcha, and with a little more peace of mind, I guess too, you could say, right? Because
Yeah,
it's going to help them a little bit in particularly potentially dangerous positions, right? So now that's also capturing and creating all this data on the back end as well, which you mentioned is going to the cloud, and now that data is being extracted and can be utilized by the operations team, I guess, to make better decisions and take some different actions around safety or fleets, whatever the case may be. So tell us a little bit about from that perspective, like what kind of insights are you able to get from that data, and what types of decisions can you make off that data?
sure. Yeah, so there's there's quite a few, right? So just when you look at this type of technology as a standalone, like I said, you get views into what areas of your facility are the most likely to have incursions or have had the most incursions. So that helps you pinpoint areas where, is it because that's just a high traffic area, or is it
Mm,
because it happens at the same time of day every day, and you realize, hey, all my floor workers have a break at 10 o'clock, and all my forklift drivers have a break at 10:15, so they're all walking through the alleys while my forklift driver is still trying to move material for another 15 minutes. And so you could
mhm,
pinpoint you could start to dive into sort of insights like that to say, all right, if I shift my forklift break time by, 10 minutes in the other direction, I can prevent a lot of high risk safety incursions. So yeah, you know where it happens, you know when it happens, and then you do know the who, right? So you could find people who struggle the most with too many incursions or not reacting to the incursions, so they get from a green area to a yellow area and to a red area all in sequence. And you could look at who's really good at it, and you could assign mentors to these people who need coaching, or you could just have, you know, a lot of companies today are also using things like um, immersive reality to recoach people. They don't even
mm,
use mentors. They just say, "Hey, or go put on the headset, do some virtual driving through the virtual facility, and let's show you why you should be reacting." But those are some of the data points that we look at mostly, and then the big thing we're doing at Powerfleet is trying to combine that type of data. So that's only one aspect of safety in a plant, right? So someone could drive as slow as they want and never have an incursion, but then they're not
mm,
moving material, or maybe they're hitting into racks, which are not really something you're warning about. That's more of a a stationary object. So we then try to combine this incursion data with impact data for events that happen with non-people type situations. And then we'll combine it with other things like, are they, charging the battery correctly? Are they logging in and logging out appropriately? Or are they leaving the vehicle unoccupied and available for use? So we have, 15, 20 different data points, and we could combine them all, and we help provide solutions where these end customers can get sort of an overall safety score of their facility. They could start looking at the leaders of those safety scores and the detractors from them, of a combined piece together overall solution, and then it really helps them direct their coaching in the right areas, or reallocation of resource.
mm. Very interesting. Yeah, yeah, and I think that that feedback is so good, and I love the focus there on coaching as well, to be able to say like, you're a top performer here, so like you should be able to coach other people, or like, hey, you're not so great at this, right? So let's get you some additional coaching, or like I said, reallocate the resource somewhere else. And I think that's such a great thing, especially now as we see, with the labor challenges. I think, companies, I mean, finding a reach truck driver right now is like one of the hardest things out there. I think probably one of the hardest positions to find, and one of the most expensive ones too, for an experienced one. So I think companies are, more and more getting creative in a sense to, train people that are already there internally, that maybe were a packer or something, and have interest in getting on the equipment. So I mean, I think it's really great to be able to have those insights, especially as maybe you're seeing more and more newer equipment operators coming up, right? And being able to track them and check in with them, and give them an idea of like, hey, how are they doing, right, from a safety perspective and just overall. So I'm curious, like, how does and I'm guessing it's from maybe part of those scores a little bit, but how does the AI kind of come into play here in this solution?
So on the onboard AI just comes in, just being able to identify those objects and what percentage are they in an area of higher risk, and are you approaching them or leaving them. So the AI is doing all that, and so you'll see, like, if you really wanted to go back and look at the imagery of it, you could see, okay, this was a person and they were, 62% in the yellow zone and 20% in the red zone. And so that's why it was being flagged and alerted. So that's what the AI is doing for them. It's just weeding out the objects of non interest, like I said, like pallets or boxes or racking, things that you might have to drive right up to as your course of work, and really honing in on the object of interest, which is it a person or a vehicle or something that we're trying to avoid getting close to in a daily work environment.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And very smart there. And I think it's great that it can decipher that, and recognize those different things as well. That you want to, not necessarily you want to run in, but you want to pick up, right? Which is what the forklift is for, versus things that you want to avoid hitting or even coming close to as well. So definitely very interesting there. And I'm curious too, in the press release for this, I saw, as you guys say, it gives you an immediate ROI.
Sure.
So I'm curious, talk about that a little bit. How does that work? How do you immediately get that return on investment?
Yeah. No, it's great, and it's hard. A lot of times, it's hard to talk to someone about return on investment when it comes to safety, right? Because it's really hard to put a number on safety.
Yes.
But with the number of incidents we have, and the average rate of which, or the average rate of cost of any sort of out of work time for someone involved in an incident, no matter how small that is, the cost is really great based on your number of incidents. So we absolutely think there's an immediate ROI, because as soon as this thing's up and running, it doesn't require the operators to do anything new, to learn anything new. They just have to keep driving and react to warnings. So you're getting a safer environment every day, every right
Mhm.
away. And when you're getting that safer environment, you're also getting the analytics around it. So you're understanding the amount of risk time per day that you have, and you're able to really associate that with the number of incidents that you've had in the past. So
Mm.
there's no wait and get data and then react later. This is providing
Yeah.
value immediately as soon as it's turned on.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and you had a great point there too about, that safety aspect, is almost, talking about ROI around that is challenging sometimes, because it's almost invisible until it's visible, right? And then you're like, oh crap, like I should have done something, right? I
Well,
should have made that investment,
if
right?
you're lucky, it only is visible via a fine or something, and not because of an incident. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's different ways that it costs you money. It's either fines for not, putting the most safest environment you could, or it's, workers' compensation or injury, or God forbid, some sort of a, litigation due to an
Mm.
incident. So those are all the different ways that it could cost you. Um, so
Yeah.
And I feel like we've even seen recently some litigations where companies have met all the requirements of OSHA and they've done the minimum available, but they just didn't, do what they could to avoid certain risk situations, and they end up, paying out lawsuits anyway, because even though they wouldn't have failed an OSHA audit, they still didn't do all that they could when they saw like some risk situations.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good call out too as well because I mean it's just because you're doing the minimum OSHA requirements doesn't mean it's enough for your operation to make it as safe as possible. And I think it's such a great thing to see investment being made into the tech side of safety because you see so much investment pouring into the tech side of just making things faster, right? And more efficient, more productivity, but with that comes more potential for dangers potentially and things like that, and being able to apply some of these tech learnings and innovations to the safety side of things is such an important thing to be able to progress that and really allow people to take the next level step in safety overall for their facility. So it's really a great thing that you guys are coming out with and focusing on here. So I mean, as we look at this, and obviously this is a new release for you guys, the pedestrian proximity detection solution. But as we look to the future, additionally, I mean, what's exciting for Powerfleet, or what's exciting kind of in the safety tech world in general for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as we've been kind of focused on, it's the AI of it all, and just on the
Mm.
cloud side, being able to build better engines to find and be really predictive. So, you know, there's a lot of data. We have access to a lot of it. The solutions that Powerfleet's providing really tell you the actuals of what happened, and to be able to use that and combine it with a company's other business systems, which is their desired behavior, and be able to make predictions is really key. So, if you have all the information about your warehouse management system and you're combining it with all the information about what actually happened, you get a really rich set of data for this is how the facility performs, and this is how it was supposed to perform. And then when you start forecasting that towards the expected warehouse management data, so you did 1,000 moves last month, and you're expecting 1,500 moves next month, and we could start predicting these are the types of incidents we expect you to have and where, and the frequency of them because of your expected increased workload. It helps them get in front of it, maybe train people, maybe adjust shifts, maybe change dock doors just to make material come in further apart from each other. Simple things like that. But yeah, building out these AI engines to be able to be more predictive is really what we're excited about.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely exciting. I would say. I mean, I think it's interesting because you see a lot of that predictive analysis focused on going back again to how do we do something faster, or more efficient, or more productive, or around labor planning, right? But mixing that safety aspect in there too, and being able to call out those little tweaks, like you said, like I'll just have this trailer come in 2 dock doors away, so you guys won't be on top of each other, right? Or this is high intensity, high touch unload or something for this container. So you're going to need more space on the dock. So, keep that space so you're not on top of each other, or different things like that. Or maybe you're going to have a higher volume. So you're going to bring more labor in. So stagger your shift starts or stagger your break times or something like that. So there's not as much congestion or something like that. I mean, I think that's definitely really exciting to be able to have that predictability, and predictive analysis kind of in the mix as well with all those other things that are also important, getting the job done and making sure you can meet those levels for your customers and things like that. So really, really interesting stuff, and I love the kind of continual improvement here on the safety side of things, and being able to take this tech and apply it to it, and really make better environments for operations overall. So really appreciate what you guys are doing at Powerfleet, Scott, and it's great to learn about all of this today and the new pedestrian proximity detection solution. But if people are interested in learning more and going a little deeper, what's the best way to learn more about Powerfleet?
Yeah, I mean, I always encourage them to go to our website. It has all the key information to get you started, but it also has the contacts that are most aligned with your needs. So it can drive you right to who you need to talk to. And like I said, we are the people powered IoT, so there's always people ready to engage and really hear about the concerns or risks or problems that you have, and to try to help put the best fit solution in place to help you mitigate them.
All right, awesome. And we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well so people can easily find it. So, Scott, thank you once again for joining me on the show today.
All right, thank you, Kevin.